to see you back. Oh, by the way, one thing before we start the book, I want to thank you guys for 20 people listening. Still waiting on Q&A responses. I'd love to get to know you, and so I can follow you too. Okay, so let's get on with the book. Here we go. Behind Scarlet, Tsunami raised the scavenger's sharp claw. Excuse me. Rosma Clays. He felt the same chilling fear she must be feeling if they attacked the Skywind Queen. They'd instantly have a new powerful enemy who hated them. They couldn't tell her the truth about themselves. She'd take them captive or sell them to her ally, burn or kill them just to mess with the prophecy. And they could not go with her either. They had to get back to their friends. He's Slayton not to do it. We have no choice. Snorri stabbed the claw through Queen Scarlet's tail at the vulnerable spot, driving it straight into the ground beneath. The Queen roared with fury and pain. She whipped her head around the blast of fire in the directions. "Fly!" Snorri yelled. She rolled under the flames and shoved Clay's tail. He spread his wings and bolted into the sky with Queen Scarlet's fire-scorching claws. His claws. Tsunami flapped beside him, her wing beats wobbly but determined. It won't take her long to get free. Tsunami called, "Quick, we have to lose her in the peaks." She soared up the cliff and Clay followed. They flew past the top of the waterfall where the river flowed out of a hole in the cliff. She flew up and up until they reached the top and whooshed back out onto a rocky how do you say this word? Tell me how to say this word. Plateau. Stuttered with dark green trees and bushes. Even up her, the mountains loomed over them, impossibly high and unbearably big. The peaks zigzagged to the north and south like crooked dragon teeth, a jagged row that went on and on and on. The bigness of everything kept overwhelming Clay. How would you ever find their friends again in all of this? And even if they did, what could 5 dragonets do to save a world this big? Tsunami led the way, staying low and swooping around trees, diving into chasms where they found them. Her wing beats were getting stronger as they flew. Sunlight spread across the mountains, dazzling Clay's eyes. He wasn't used to so much brightness. And this was only dawn. The ferocity of the midnight sun was still ahead. "Here!" Tsunami called, jerking her head toward a dent, the ledge outside a small cave. From here they could look over the rocky, the same word, Plateau. Tell me how to spell that. The valleys and mountain peaks spread out around them. Clay peered down nervously. The roar of the waterfall was a faint rumble in the distance. There was no sign of Queen Scarlet. I can't believe you did that, he said to Tsunami. I had to, didn't I? Just without her usual conviction, she scratched at the gills, looking worried, then slipped into the shadows of the cave to check that it was empty. Clay wanted to rescue her, but he was worried too. He closed his eyes and turned his face toward the rising sun. The heart soaked down through his scales until his bones felt warm, at least. See how much pages we have until the next chapter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. You should see yourself, Simon said from the cave. You're practically glowing. I don't know mudwings had so many colors in them. Clay opened his eyes and glanced down. He'd always thought of himself as just brown, plain brown scales. Ordinary brown claws, color of flat mud from horns to tail. Now, in the full sunlight, for the first time, he could see gold and amber glints between and beneath his scales. Even the brown seemed richer and deeper, like the mahogany trunk, where Webbs kept the most delicious, delicate strolls. Huh, he said. You're so pretty, Tsunami joked, emerging into the light. Clay had to bite back a gasp. While the sun brought out his colors, it made her look bejeweled, like a dragon made of sapphires and emeralds or summer leaves and the oceans. He thought of Glory and how beautiful she already was in the gloomy caves. None of them would be able to look at her in full sunlight, or else they'd be too dazzled to ever speak to her again. Glory! Clay squinted out at the mountainside. There's still crags and holes and rocky outcroppings that might lead to tunnels everywhere. We have no idea what the outside of their home looked like. They could see a lot of the mountain from here, but no smoke signal yet. The sun had nearly cleared the horizon now, climbing slowly up the sky and chasing away the 3 moons. Clay saw several red shapes fitting the distant mountain peaks. At first he thought they were birds until he spotted fire flickering around them like lightning and realized they were dragons. This was definitely Skywing territory. Starflight was right about where their cave was, but Clay had no idea how they escaped the mountains now that the Skywing Queen was probably hunting them in a towering rage. Sunny seized his shoulder. Over there! She cried, pointing. A thin column of smoke was starting to rise from a hole part way down the slope. He flung himself into the air and swooped over the hole. It was enclosed but partly hidden by a thicket of branches, so he couldn't not land next to it, but it was open to the sky and looked like the shape of the sky hole to him. It had to be his friends. Tsunami swept up beside him. They both hovered around the smoke, trying to peer down into the hole. Starflight and Sunny must be right there, Clay said. Right below us. The smoke smelled of old paper. He felt a twinge of pity for Starflight burning some of his beloved scrolls. So we're close, but we have to find the entrance, Tsunami said. The tunnel must come out somewhere nearby. She spiraled down to the rocky ground outside the bushes. She started pacing as if they were trying to count off the distance, but the study room to the entrance tunnel, they stayed up in the air, circling. He had the same funny feeling he'd had looking at Tsunami's crooked wing, that if he relaxed and just looked, he could see how things should fit together. He'd walked the caves under mountains a million times. He knew them better than his own claws. And still hear the faint roar of the waterfall, so he could guess which way the underground river flowed. He pictured the tunnel from the study cave to the central hall and mapped it out on the craggy rocks below. Here, he called to Tsunami, swooping down to land. The boulder blocking the exit should be right below here, so the tunnel to the outside would go that way. He turned to look. The ravine, Tsunami said. A crevasse cut through the rocks a short distance away. When they peered down into it, you could see a stream running over a pebbly gravel and sandy mud. The entrance must be down there somewhere. Clay hopped to the bottom of the ravine, keeping his wings spread to slow his fall. Mud squelched between his talons as he landed. He felt a wave of anger wash over him. Here was mud and sunlight and warm fresh air, this close to their cave. Why hadn't the Guardians ever brought the Dragonets outside? Even small trips to this ravine would have made life so different. He knew they'd say it was for safety. They'd say it was to protect the Dragonets, in case the Skywings spotted them. Smart. But Clay guessed it was really because the Guardians didn't trust him and his friends. They didn't trust them not to fly away. They didn't trust them to act smart and avoid drawing attention to themselves. He dug sharp gashes in the mud with his claws. The Dragonets never even had a chance to be trustworthy. Maybe Clay didn't deserve it. After attacking the others at hatching, maybe the Guardians thought that something inside him might snap at any moment. But there was no reason to have kept Sunny and Gloria and Starflight and Tsunami in the dark all these years. See? Snowy thumped down beside him and nodded at a mossy pile of boulders up ahead. Let's check there first. They squished and splashed down the stream. They spotted something in the mud in front of them. He flared his wings up to stop Snowy from going any farther. Look, he said, dragon tracks. Fresh dragon prints were stamped into the riverbank. The deep line of a tail dragged between them. They disappeared suddenly as if the dragon had lifted off into the sky. Clangingly fit one of his own feet into a print. It was dwarfed by the size of the other dragon's talons. If it came from our cave, Snowy said, and I'm sure it did, then it must be Kestrel. How do you know? Clay asked. So I put her own foot down next to one of the prints. No webs between claws, she said. So tonight, okay, we're gonna pause right there. See you guys later. Bye bye.